Welcome to this tutorial on adding citations to Zotero using an RIS file. An RIS file is a format that configures bibliographic information in a readable way for citation managers. Most databases and even some search tools will have ways to export lists of sources to an RIS file. This is very useful when you're collecting multiple sources at one go, whether for a full-on systematic review or even for a larger lit review. So we're going to start the demo by showing you how to get RIS files from several different search tools and databases. So we're going to start with the library's quick search here, and you'll notice that next to each of these articles or results, there's this little numbered checkbox, which you can select individual articles that you want to put in. Several tools will also have the ability to export all results or even to grab multiple ones in one go. So I selected the checkbox at the top, and it grabbed all of the first 10 results on the page. And even here, I could go to export all results. On quick search, you're going to go over to the little show actions items, and it's going to have the option to export to RIS. And then you just click download. And then you'll notice that there's an RIS file that goes into typically your downloads folder if you're on a Windows machine. So it's pretty simple to grab multiple items from quick search, but other databases and search engines will have similar options. So for example, I'm in a ProQuest database right now. I can select 1 through 20. I can also select individual items here from the list. I can then go up to my cute little citation icon here, and it will either give me a list. It gives me a list of all these different citations. However, I can also export to a citation manager using the RIS tool down below, and it will create an RIS file in my downloads folder. With an EBSCO product, you can select individual results like so. You can go ahead and grab all the ones that are on our page. You can even grab export all results. With larger exports, some of the databases might ask you to create an account within the database in order to get all of those results back. So just keep that in mind if you are doing bulk downloads of a large number of sources. With PubMed is a little bit different. It still creates a file, but it's not an RIS file. So I'm going to select a couple of items here. So again, I can do those individually, but if I wanted to grab all 700 results, I can go up to Send To and Citation Manager. And then I either have the original selection of 3 right now, or I can actually grab either all the results on this page, so it would be the top 10 results, or I can grab all the results on a section. But for right now, I'm just going to use my 3. I'm going to create a file, and this actually comes in as an nbib file. It acts the same as an RIS file, but PubMed just uses a different file extension. With something like Web of Science, again, you can have the ability to add things individually. You could grab all of them, but you're going to want to click on Export instead. And Web of Science gives a few, but again, you're looking for that RIS other reference software to go to Zotero. On Google Scholar, you actually have the ability to get some citations as well. So there's this option to cite items here, but this is for an individual item. So it gives you a suggested citation that's formatted, hopefully correctly, in the different styles. It also gives you some options down here. Some of them are specifically for citation managers like EndNote or RefWorks. For Zotero, you can use the RefMan option. It will kind of bring in the Zotero connector into play, which is a browser extension that you can use. And you can also, always allow for this site and say, it's going to create it with the Zotero connector here. Instead of saying OK here and you don't want to use the connector and you say cancel, it will actually create an RIS file. So you can do this one at a time with Google Scholar using the site, but that's not really useful. I would probably just use the Zotero connector if I was going to go that route. Instead, though, if you wanted to save items to your library, you can actually kind of create a list of items that you'd like to see. So again, there's no option to grab every single result that's coming back from Google Scholar. But I can grab those 4 citations and then go into my library here. And I can export them all into a RefMan, an RIS file here. And again, using that same kind of situation that I showed with the individual citation. When you are in your Zotero library, I'm already in my video demos. I have 1 item in here already. to add things from an RIS, or in the case of PubMed, an NBIB file, you are going to want to go up to File on Zotero, and you're going to click Import from that menu. That will bring up this dialog box, and it says, where do you want things to come from? And we want to say that it's from a file, BibTeX, RIS, a couple other options here, etc. That's where the NBIB comes in. So I'm going to click Next, and then it asks which file I want to use. Now, I will say that you can't really select multiple ones at the same time. You have to kind of go one by one with the file, but you're going to be importing multiple references this way in any case. So I'm going to choose the Primo RIS file, and then there's going to be some options here. Now, if you want to place imported collections into a new collection, this will automatically create a new collection in your library structure. All right, so if you haven't already created a folder that you want everything to go into, this would do that. I believe this is the default, but typically I already have a library or a sub-library that I'm putting everything into, so I'm going to uncheck that. And then you have these file handling options, and this is a really important these are really important options to kind of pay attention to, because they will affect not only the amount of storage that you have with Zotero, which again, the free version of Zotero only has a certain amount of storage attached to it, but it also will affect how much syncing you have between the content that is in your desktop library versus your web library versus your desktop library on another device. So to explain this, when you are looking at storing files in Zotero, they are stored in the data directory, which is basically a little folder kind of on your computer, but also in the Zotero cloud. And Zotero will kind of automatically manage these files for you. So you're giving a little bit of control over to Zotero about where you see them. And it'll do things like delete them out if you delete them, if you delete items from your library. It will also save a lot of those kind of annotations and any note-taking you have on those items if you are using the note-taking functions in Zotero. If you are just linking files, it's just going to store a link to the location on your computer, right? So if you're going to upload a PDF or something like that, it would kind of show that. It wouldn't, and this won't not affect your storage capacity with Zotero. It also doesn't have the syncing ability, and it doesn't kind of give over the management of items to Zotero like the stored files are. So again, depending on how you're using Zotero, you may want to choose one or the other. But in my case, I'm going to actually use the storage folder here and then click Next. It says it imports, and then there were 10 items that were imported. So I just click Finish, and then you'll see all of the items that came through here. And as always, it is an excellent idea to double check that the information coming in through this import process is correct. So a couple of things that I will always double check is to see whether or not the title case that I need is actually correct, which in most cases, in the case of like using APA or something, it's going to be sentence case rather than title case. That I have something like a DOI, that there's a URL or linking back to it if necessary. I have started to notice that there are often issues with page numbers missing. So in this case, I don't actually have from the Journal of Microbiology and Education any page numbers that are associated with this journal title. I also did not pull in a DOI, rather I grabbed a proxied URL from my library's database, which is typically not something I want to see. I've also noticed that in some cases there are extra information in here coming from that lists something like an archive or a location in archive. This information is used in some citation formats, but not others. In MLA, for example, it wants to know the database where you access this journal article, not just the journal article and journal title. But in APA, that isn't useful. Also, there will often be a lot of weird notes that kind of come in, and there will often be a lot of tags that are kind of pulled in here too. So you can delete these out, you can delete these notes and things. So just kind of always be careful and double check what's coming in with your items, and make sure that all of that information is correct and complete in order to make your citations. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask a librarian or visit Zotero's documentation pages. And thank you for watching.